and we're live. So we haven't got Tim this week, I believe. So it's just me and Alex. So
we're alternating. So Tim, I don't think Tim mentioned it on the start of last week's podcast. But this time last week, the two of us were both in transit. Ironically, both of us heading back from Tim's house back to Wales to Cardiff and to Swansea, respectively. So. Yeah, both of us called in to see Tim, but then didn't make the podcast that Tim was recording from his own place because it was going to be a late evening turn back home. I thought otherwise. So,
and we've got hi there, commuter branch line.
Good evening.
So
probably start by asking what you've been up to. What have you been? How the last couple of weeks been for you? Because we've both been absent. So.
Been testing a few cars, been doing something in secret I can't talk about yet, but all will be revealed very soon.
We're a fan of Secret Squirrel on this podcast, aren't
we? Yeah. So this week I've been back in my own cars. So driving the original Hyundai, well, the original facelift Hyundai Kona, and the and my own car, and actually took the Kona on a reasonably long road trip over the weekend, and Alex has vanished. He's clearly moved his phone slightly. Is he going to come back? So I've been driving the original Hyundai Kona. So one of the things with that car is it really does kind of, when you consider it came out in 2018, there's not much that can beat it for range now. And I'll just try and get Alex back into the thing. Oh, he's gone totally now. So this week, the plan is to talk about the new government EV grant. So once Alex gets back in, he'll be able to explain it because it's a bit more complicated than just a certain amount off a new EV. So any if anyone's got any comments or anything, there we go. Here's Alex back. Just wait till you just bring him back onto the stage.
I hope that's not an omen for the rest of the session. I do apologise. I don't know what happened there.
It's okay. I was talking to myself, so well, and the people who are watching. But just saying, I was back in the Hyundai Kona and saying how that vehicle, when you consider it came out the tail end of 2018, how it punched above its weight. You know, there was nothing that could do that sort of range in that sort of price point when it came out. Yeah, and it still holds its own. You know, I did 240 miles and still had 29% left, and that was all around Bristol, following that Wallace and Gromit Unleashed Trail, which some interesting places in Bristol you see with that. I'm amazed some of them are still there.
I think it's interesting, isn't it, with the Kona? I mean, we've talked about it, I guess, a few times on the podcast, but I mean, I remember the press release coming through and translating it from, because it was shown at a tech day in Seoul in, I think, 2017, and they put the range in, and I thought, I must be converting that wrong, because I had to translate the page from Korean, and they were talking about how it was going to have like 300 odd miles of range. I remember thinking, there's no way that's going to be, but no, here it is, and it's stood the test of time really well, hasn't it? And if you look at what's in that class as well, I mean, I sort of say if I was in the market for a cheap EV where it hadn't really aged, I mean, aside from the charging speed, there's nothing on that car that doesn't stack up well against everything modern in that class. It's really quite impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that does hurt it is we've got the the facelift one, which has a slightly faster charging speed, but that's kind of the only thing that lets it down. Is it tops out at about 75-ish kilowatts of charging. But when you think the range it's got, that kind of makes up for it. Yeah, and I think, and that's what's, when you see quite high mileage ones with really good state of health on the batteries, I think that charging speed has probably helped that. the fact it hasn't really
there's
done a huge amount to the batteries. So I've just got some more comments coming in. So Lewis Standing, he's got the original Kona. My brother has a refresh and stepmom has the new. Hers is non-EV. But I mean, I've driven the new ones. The new ones are slightly better on range, but not massively so. They do about 360 easily, whereas you're talking about 330. But, you know, they are genuinely 300-mile range cars in the warmer months.
It was a big old battery in that size of car as well, wasn't it? 64 kilowatts, a big old battery.
And there's some bargains to be had, as we've said before, on the 2019 and 69 plate ones, where they've had a brand new battery under warranty because of the recall, because there may have been a folding issue on the battery tabs. Oh, message. I forgot about Tesla Supercharged. That's where Tim went, wasn't it?
Yes.
And fully charged. There is still fully charged live in September. I'm hoping to get to that one in Farnborough. I suppose that's the OG fully charged, isn't it, Farnborough?
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. I always used to find it funny, though, that you're in fully charged looking at other cars with people's private Gulf Streams taking off and landing. Because that's where the Gulf Stream, like...
It's trying to entice them in, isn't it? I've flown out of Farnborough Airport a few times. It's quite an experience, that.
Yeah, you jump in your Tesla after you've landed with your Gulf Stream. So the commuter brush, we bought a 2018 Kona 64 back in the day. It's a quantum leap compared to the 2013. And someone's put the Nexon tires. I have on all the older ones I've got is they are now not running on Nexon tires anymore. They are running on the Michelins. Because actually, when you look, the facelift one got more WLTP range, and the only thing they changed to it, apart from some minor cosmetic tweaks, was they went to Michelin Primacy 4 tires, which were an A-rated tire, and the original ones weren't. I mean, and that makes it even more impressive that the fact it did that sort of range on, like, I think they were C-rated rolling resistance tires back in the day. Because you went to the launch of that, didn't you? I believe.
I did, yeah. They did a double launch with the Nexo in Norway. So we drove the Nero, the Kona one day and the Nexo the next. So yeah, it was an interesting kind of comparison of cars. And one of those has done very, very well. And the other one, I don't want to get into the hydrogen thing, but yes, it hasn't been
I saw one when I flew from Gatwick. I saw one in the wild. I'm guessing there's a hydrogen refuel in the Gatwick. So, yeah. I mean, the Michelin tires on it are really good. I mean, although there are a lot of competitors now, that the tire game is very competitive, and there are other brands now that do A-rated tires. I mean, it's all to play for with range now. So all the big tire OEMs are trying to get those A-rated tires without compromising the other stuff, just to get that extra range out of vehicles.
We're down to our last factory Michelin Primacy 3 on the Rifter now, and I kind of think like I wouldn't want anything less than A-rated on that, because I think range is its Achilles heel. It's reasonably efficient considering the size of it and the battery that it's got on board, but I mean it's a limited range car, and I think you lose 10% in that, you would really struggle. So
see, that's the one thing about one thing about the later Konas, when it got the facelift, they all got full LED multi-array LED headlights, because the early LED headlights, even on the top spec one, weren't particularly great compared to that. But then, I mean, me and Alex drove around in the original Zoes, and I don't know what word would you use to describe the headlights on the original Zoes.
So I drive, as you know, a 1991 car, and I would say that the headlights on the Zoe were about as good as the headlights were on my car before I put the uprated wiring loom on mine. So mine's got a direct feed from the 12-volt battery, which is relayed off the original headlight wiring loom, and that makes a massive difference. You get something like 6 volts to the headlights on a 91 Polo, so they are pretty dim. But yeah.
And there's another common commuter branch line about the C-rated tyres. Yeah, I do remember the Kona. If it was a bit of a damp road, you could spin the wheels from 40 miles an hour if you put your foot down. Yeah, I mean, actually, he's raised a valid point that back when that was launched, the only things that could compete with range were the Tesla Model S and X. And I suppose you could argue the Nero, which came slightly after it, but that was obviously the same platform, so it could compete because it was the same car effectively underneath for the same powertrain. So, I mean, the only thing I found that, a couple of weeks ago, I was testing the Hyundai Insta, and that kind of reminded me a lot of the smaller battery Kona. I've never driven the smaller battery one in any sort of distance. But I mean, even that, with 46 kilowatt hours of usable, the Insta is kind of it's a car, even that you could live with every day compared to some of the early EVs that we drove. And commuter branch line has just put Polo.
I can't help but name drop it. Sorry, it's on my mind. I was
going to say,
I did last week at Bug Jam. Among the many whiffs of old air-cooled Volkswagens and so on and so forth, and yeah, good fun. Interesting to note that the program that we were presented on the way in had an ID Buzz on it, and I wonder if for those who don't know the Volkswagen scene particularly well, there's always been a bit of a split between the early air-cooled guys and the later water-cooled guys. I think it's calmed down a little bit since I first got into the scene, but there was always a kind of a divide. And I wonder if you're going to get that same sort of, you'll get the air guys, the water guys, and the battery guys. So I mean, there's going to be your buzzes and so on are going to find a place in the scene eventually. Just like it was wall to wall T5 transporters. Now it's people are going to accept the newer stuff as it comes along, assuming those shows go along. And I mean, I haven't been for 15 years. And it's interesting to note that with all the stuff that's changed in the last 15 years, Bug Jam still feels exactly the same as it did back in the 2010s. So, yeah, good fun.
Yeah, another one from commuter branch line. Yeah, the e-Nero turned up the same time as the very first Model 3s. So it is mad when you think that technically it wasn't a small Tesla that beat, it was a small South Korean car. And the fact is, the thing that always gets me the most is neither the e-Nero or the Kona are dedicated EV platforms. They're also available as ICE variants, and they've not really struggled to be efficient. Another comment from Stephen Mark Holman. What are your thoughts on the Mini Cooper J01? Now, I know very little about this, so maybe Alex knows a bit more.
I've driven one so far, and it was the John Cooper Works one, which is interesting. I've seen some criticisms that the ride quality is bad. The ride quality is bad, but it's a lot of fun. It's a proper little scruff of the neck car with one major flaw in that one. This is probably slightly a slight tangent, but it's got a paddle on the steering wheel, which you'd normally expect to it's like a downshift paddle, so you'd expect it to increase the regen. If you squeeze it on the John Cooper Works, you get boost mode. So it does the opposite to what you're expecting, which is a bit odd. It's a lovely little car. I really like what they've done in the interior in the new one. It feels really, really premium. Just delightful design inside. And if you love how the mini driving experience, and you like the way that it looks, I don't think pictures really do it justice. It looks quite plain, I guess, in pictures. But in the metal, it's a pretty little car, and they've done such a gorgeous job of making it kind of feel really, really upmarket inside. And yeah, if you're stretching to a John Cooper Works, you'll have a lot of fun with it. So
yeah, I've never driven any of the electric minis. I've driven a couple of BMWs. It's one of the brands that I'd like to go. Well, I'd like to compare it because you said the ride's quite hard. I want to compare it to the Ioniq 5N because I suppose the Ioniq 5N
is harder than 5N. Disadvantage of shorter wheelbase, I guess, but yeah, I mean it is a very firm riding car. There's no you get the sense even before you get out of the car park where you pick it up that it's going to be something that's quite aggressive, but it's a good fun little pocket rocket, that car. And I'd imagine the Cooper would be good fun too. So
I'm guessing at the price point, though, it doesn't have adaptive suspension like the 5N does.
I don't remember. No, I don't remember. I don't think it does.
So another comment from Commuter Branch. Back in 1991, my pride and joy was a metallic green Polo Coupe S with gold BBS split trims. It was slow as a snail, but it wasn't a Vauxhall Nova or a Ford XR2 as everyone, man and his dog, drove those. It's interesting the word BBS has been mentioned.
Yes, I've had an interesting day swapping parts around on the Polo, which is why I'm still dressed in slightly grubby, slightly sweaty kind of garage gear at the moment. But yes, no, this one behind has 3 times the power of the Coupe S, so it's a slightly different wee beastie. But yeah, interestingly, I've got a Mocha E turned up this week at my house, so I've got that for a little bit. And when you sign in, it's got a picture of a Nova on the sign-in screen, which the younger of my 2 boys thought was really cool. It's like, it looks a bit like a Polo. I'm like, oh, yeah, it does a little bit, I suppose, from the side, but it had the little cool box arches, which I think have aged quite nicely on the Novas.
And that particular car makes you look like such a Vauxhall fanboy as well.
Yes, it does. Yeah, so the one that I've got's got a VXL plate on it, so I think it's L3 VXL. So yeah.
So that's a man who really loves his Vauxhalls, they're going to say.
Well, Tim already thinks I'm obsessed, having raved about the Grandland for months. But
so
yes,
it's the Mocha's turn now.
It is the Mocha's turn. It'd be interesting to see how I get on with it. I just the Grandland's such a complete car. It's got big boots to fill. But what I am liking about it is that the Grandland's quite a large footprint car. It's not massive, it's not cumbersome, but it's just getting on for that stage where it's like if someone parks badly next to you, it could be difficult getting in and out of it and things like that. So yeah,
that's the one thing I really liked about the Insta.
The
fact that it was small, and I liked the Japanese K car vibes it was giving off as well. I don't know, is that a South Korean thing as well, or is it kind of, do they have lots of small boxy cars?
Well, Kia had the Ray. I don't know if you remember the Ray. I think we talked about this really early on, but it was a bit like a kind of a little boxy, kind of like a Scion-y kind of thing. Very cute. And it had a sliding door on the pavement side, which I think had the beeper on it as well. I think the whole of the passenger side opened. And then it had a normal hinge door on the driver's side. So if you were getting out on the pavement side, you wouldn't open your door into passing pedestrians, which I thought was a really cute idea. But they did an electric version of that and a petrol version of that. And we were supposed to have been driving something else, but we had some extra time on an event that I did about 15 years ago, and they said, "Oh, did you want to go and drive the Ray?" So we drove this kind of matching fleet of minty kind of bluey green Kia Rays all over Seoul. It was quite a cute little car. So I wonder what happened to all of those. Probably seem hideously dated by modern standards.
Yeah, but I did really like it. But I didn't think I would, because it is all, from some angles, people say the Insta's awkward. But I think it's very cleverly packaged. The fact you can get 4 full-grown adults in it, and like 200 miles for most of my trips, the 200 miles would be fine. I mean, there's not much in it between my smaller battery Ioniq 5 and the range of it. And you think there's probably about 30 miles in it, if that. But it was such an impressive car. Now I really want to try the Cross one with the big roof bars and the replica steely wheel type. But
tall and narrow kind of car. It's an oddly proportioned thing, but I liked it. I'm keen to try one as well at some point.
100 millimeters shorter than longer. Your Polo's 100 millimeters shorter than it, but the Insta is over 200 millimeters taller than your Polo.
Yeah.
So very square and boxy. But I suppose now we should really get on to talking about the government's new EV grant. I think Alex has kind of been trying to get to the bottom of how exactly it's going to work. I don't know if anyone does know truly how it's going to work yet. But
I'm going to throw this out to the floor while I prattle on for a little bit. I'm interested to know what people think of this loan, and whether you think this is the right way to stimulate the market, because I've got some feelings on that I'll come on to later. It's had quite a lot of news coverage, so some people will probably be familiar with it. Some people may have heard about it, but only sort of heard surface level details. But the long and short of it is it's been a few years now. So it's 2022, I think we last had the plug-in car grant, but actually that's kind of continued on. You could still get grants for wheelchair adapted cars, but that was it. So it's a handful of like Rifters and Berlingos and cars like that, where you could still get the old plug-in car grant system for them. I think that's actually still going. But this is a whole new system, and it offers up to £3,750 off vehicles up to £37,000 list price. But it's not quite as simple as that. So you've got two levels of grant, 3,750 or 1,500. And even within that, there are going to be some cars that don't qualify for it at all. So it's all based on an analysis of the cleanliness of the electrical grid in the countries where the battery is made and in the countries where the vehicle is assembled. So it's weighted 70% battery, 30% vehicle. And there's all sorts of requirements for warranty and other bits and pieces that the car has to offer in order to qualify for the grant in the first place. So what you're going to end up with is a rush of manufacturers applying for the grant, and they have to then show where everything is assembled. And then from that, they will get either the 1,500 or the 3,750 grant. To me, this feels like quite an opaque way of incentivizing cars. It's not clear at all. If you're a consumer, you've got no real, I mean, to an extent, I guess it doesn't really matter because manufacturers will just show it as this price with the grant deducted and so on. But as a consumer, you can't access the data that these calculations are based on. So it's quite hard to kind of judge what will qualify and what won't, and what will get the full price and what won't. But in fairness, what this has then led to is a long list of manufacturers that have come along and tried to match the grant by slashing the list price. Obviously, either realizing that they don't qualify for the full grant or that they don't qualify for the grant at all. And you've then got Volkswagen, I saw on Friday, I think it was, where they put out a thing saying that what they're going to do is discount. They're anticipating, I guess, that they're going to qualify for the full grant. So they're offering a grant guarantee whereby they basically take that off the price and then deal with the grant stuff later on. So you don't end up buying a car now that in 2 weeks' time has lost 3,714. And yeah, so we're still waiting to hear which cars qualify and how much they qualify for. It's interesting seeing some companies are playing their hand and have obviously realized that there's no way that they're going to qualify. And you can realize that by if you go and look for the companies that are already offering discounts on list prices and so on. So to my mind, yeah, it's quite a complex system, launched to a lot of fanfare. I don't know what's your take on it, Kev?
Well, I don't really think the market needed stimulation for new cars. Because the problem you have, as you've said, is, with Volkswagen offering this guarantee, effectively, if you qualify it, you've just suddenly put £3,750 depreciation on an already depressed used market, which means it's going to hurt it even more. So I think they would have been better looking at examples like Scotland to try and stimulate the used car market, maybe with the Scotland has, in conjunction with the Energy Savings Trust, an interest-free loan for used cars, electric cars. Maybe that would be a better option. I don't think it needed it. It's like there were other things.
Yeah.
But if you look at the maths, if you work out the maths, me and Sam Clark discussed it briefly, is it looks like basically what they've added in road tax for EVs, they're now giving a very opaque way to give it back. So it's actually cost neutral. It works out at roughly the same amount, potentially. So us who already own cars are now paying to get a discount off new cars. So I don't know. I don't think there were other things that needed to be looked at. The disparity with VAT would be a good one.
Yeah, my sense is exactly the same as you, is that the used market is what needed the help, rather than the new market, because I feel like by doing this, you'll have it will only exert downward pressure on used values, which is great as a buyer. It's not so good if you are either PCPing an EV at the moment that suddenly qualifies for it. If you bought a vehicle that's going to suddenly qualify for the grant, you've now lost a chunk of money that wasn't factored in when that deal was dealt with. In a nutshell, for those who don't understand PCP, I'm sure all of you do, it's all the cost of that over the term of the contract is based on what it loses plus a bit of wiggle room on top. Suddenly you're going to find that cars could potentially risk ending up either in negative equity or not reach the point of having any equity for longer in the loan. On top of the fact that obviously like interest rates are still quite high and so on and so forth. So my view is that it's kind of rippling the new market that was starting to kind of even out and sort of kind of find its feet. I mean, you've got lots of great cars like the Insta, like the Renault 5, the Renault 4. You've got all the Stellantis products like the EC3, and you've got Leap Motor and various other people, kind of coming into the market with cheaper EVs. I think you're going to start to find that actually this end of the market that they're pushing with this grant doesn't need necessarily as much support as it might have done a few years ago. The economies of scale have kicked in to an extent where that support isn't necessarily needed as much as it would be in terms of kind of getting people into the affordable stuff. And yes, I think that scheme up in Scotland is really, it's got legs. I don't know why it's never been there must be a reason for it, but it's never been used elsewhere. And I just think that to me seems like a sensible way to kind of shore it up. The more demand there is for used cars, effectively then you're making newer cars cheaper on a monthly, in terms of the monthlies, because you have that used market for it, which shores up the residual values, which again, as I said a few minutes ago, means you get more advantageous kind of finance deals up front. So I think it wouldn't have been where I would have prioritized setting up government support, and as much as I welcome any support that we get, but yeah.
But another comment come in from the branch line. Which Grandland did you have? I don't think there is a 7-seater version, is there?
There's a 7-seat Peugeot, but not the Grandland. So the 7-seat, it was a 5-seater, but it was, if you take out the third row seats of the Rifter is only about 10 centimeters longer, and being a van, more of it is in the cabin. So from a space point of view and a practicality point of view, the Rifter wins hands down. It's not much bigger. It's probably narrower. I haven't actually compared those two, but the Rifter's 4.75 meters long. The Grandland's a big car. It's 4.65 meters long, and it's a 5-seater, but it's the 5-seater with the usual issue. This is a pet peeve of mine. If you've got 3 kids in child seats, the middle seat is useless. So if you've got 3 kids in car seats, it's basically a 4-seater, as is almost everything else in that class. Whereas the Grandland, if you take the third row of seats out, it's still a 5-seater. It's got 3 equal size seats in the back, all with Isofix. Clever car, very, very clever car. Yeah. But obviously the Grandland's got twice as much range. So if you want to go long distances, the Grandland wins hands down. If you're mostly local with occasional long distance needs, the Rifter is still perfectly bearable on long trips. That sounds like really false praise, doesn't it? The Rifter is manageable on long trips. It's fine for it but you obviously have to stop and charge every 110 miles, which if you've got 3 small kids in the car, as I do, you're kind of doing that anyway. So,
and they do seem to have improved the range on the new ones somehow, but they haven't got the new motor as far as I'm aware, or have they? Because
supposedly they've got a new pack. Because I
drove the van version of the new Peugeot, and it didn't have that wobble that yours has got. So they've done something to it, and it's genuinely doing 200 miles range now on the vans. So I don't know, they've done something to it.
Should probably explain the wobble. There's the early Stellantis EVs, the 136 horsepower ones, and step in anyone who's experienced this. Widely used powertrain, obviously used throughout the Stellantis product portfolio. Very, very, very slow speed. So if you're creeping up a driveway, as we've got a slightly uphill driveway here, it's almost like you can feel the magnets in the motor moving between the segments of the rotor moving within the stator. And it's this kind of slightly notchy, kind of lumpy But it only does it at very, very, very low speeds. So I don't know why it does that. But yeah, the latest stuff doesn't do it. I mean, the Mocha I've got, it's got the later powertrain, the 156 as opposed to the 136 horsepower one. And it's totally different. It doesn't do it at all. And it's much more efficient as well.
And back onto the grant, we've got commuter branch line. Will the grant bring down Tesla Model Y Berlin build cars down in price? That's the interesting one because they're above the price point, aren't they?
They're above the price point, yeah, so it wouldn't affect those. But unless, of course, they choose to drop the price to bring it in within the grant. But that would be an enormous price cut. I mean, that's kind of disrupting the whole used market thing again. If they have to slash it by, because it's just under 40,000, isn't it? It's 39,990 in base spec. I got an Uber home on Friday. I went to see a back-to-back Kashin Faithless and Chicane in Cardiff Castle on Friday. And we got an Uber back, and it was a Model 3 and a Highland spec. It's the guy's first Tesla, and he'd exchanged it for he'd had a Skoda Superb hatch. No, not hatch. He'd had a Skoda Superb, not the estate. The new ones aren't a hatch anymore, are they? God, it's been years since I've driven one. I can't remember. Anyway, he was saying that he how much he adored using this as a taxi and how fantastic it was for it. But yeah, 39,990, and he bought the base spec one as well. So he bought the one that slips just under the £40,000 threshold, but it won't get the grant. So unless they cut 3,000 off the price.
Yeah,
and assuming the supply chain is in place in the way that the grant demands.
Yeah, I'm hoping in the next few weeks to test some Teslas. So I thought I'd actually try and have a look what all the fuss is about that Tim makes on them. Just try it for myself to see what they're. Yeah, but I've never doubted that they're good cars. I've just, I don't really know what is. I need to find out what makes them stand out. I hear the software is very good, but I can't speak from experience. So it'll be good to experience that software and see, have the other manufacturers caught up significantly, or whether have Tesla moved on a bit more. It's all for me to find out.
I haven't driven a Highland yet. That I also ought to try it. I haven't had a go in a Highland yet. But my sense is that the Model 3 pre-facelift with the stalks, as opposed to the buttons and the weird kind of indicators that are on the steering wheel that can end up in the wrong direction depending on where you are in terms of lock. I get the sense that it might. I mean, I suppose you get used to this stuff, so it's kind of But I get the sense that it may have been better pre-facelift, a little bit like the Mark 7 Golf, versus the Mark 8 Golf. But yeah, anyway.
Commuter branch line, Scotland, 0% finance for the government does help shift cars up there. So, I think it would do, and I'm guessing there's quite strict criteria on what qualifies for it, so it's not necessarily going to be. Your little.
It's wage based.
Car dealer.
It's income based, so it's not available to everyone. It's basically kind of helping. I say lower. It's not like low income, but it's kind of helping. It's not for kind of high income families. So
they also do it for PV and home battery storage, whereas I guess the rest of the UK just gets the VAT off. So. KC Talks EV Model 3 and Y facelift is a step up interior quality and refinement. So I think I like it. I don't know. I'll have to work that out. I'm still undecided on whether I'm going to cope with the indicators on the Model 3. But again, it's one of those things to try.
It did feel good inside the other day, I have to say. It did feel well built. I mean, the Model 3 was a huge step up from the. I think if you went back to an early Model S, you'd be quite surprised now how they weren't great quality-wise inside. Model 3 was always a big step up from the Model S.
Yeah, and they did make some mistakes on the early Model S, is using consumer-grade stuff for screens and everything. So I know one of my friends had the one where it delaminated the screen from the thing, so you had all that yellow stuff. All replaced under warranty, but it's just those silly little things that happened in the early stuff, and they seem to have really got to grips with the using automotive grade screens and things like that. I'm surprised they haven't put head-up display on it yet, though, because that seems a really simple thing to do. But another one from Commuter Branch Line. Yeah, new Tesla model Tesla Free Highland, genuine
Of
300.
course it is. Yeah.
Is it LFP battery on all of them now? I thought the long range still had NMC.
No, I think it's
thought it
only
was
the
a
standard
standard
range
range.
that's got. I think it's only the standard range that's got NMC, LFP, and the rest of them, I believe, are NMC. You're testing a tired brain here, but yeah, they're not all NMC. The high performance ones certainly are still NMC.
Yeah, because I think Ford have done the same with the Mustang Mach-E. Standard range now there's LFP and long range is NMC. The interesting thing is, though, if you look at them, the weight went up on the standard range. So the weight is pretty much identical for the standard range to the long range one now, because I'm guessing the LFP pack is heavier.
Yeah.
So, but it's slightly higher capacity. But I haven't seen anything from the South Korean brand switch to LFP on anything yet. Don't think they have.
Don't think so.
It's not LFP, that's NMC, I think.
You would, but that's the one where you would think it might be. I mean, yeah, I mean, I know that because Berlingo van was the only one that I saw in the press release that they'd actually done so. But the Berlingo van is now LFP, so I assume that would mean Berlingo passenger car, and therefore the new Rift would also be LFP. But the rest of the cars are not. They're still NMC, even cars like the Corsa.
I believe as well.
Interesting. I've realised on that note, speaking it, because I was just thinking I'd spend my own money on it. Commuter Branchline asked if I spend my own money on a Grandland. If I were after a car that could do what that car can do, yes, I'd be but I'm not. So I would happily recommend friends and family to buy one. I really do think it's a very good car. And if I was in a position where, say, I was in need of, a large, sort of a largish family-sized SUV, that would certainly be on my shopping list. I just think it's a very competent car. Would I be interested in buying another C-segment SUV? I've had them in the past. Probably not. I'm quite a fan of small cars, and I'm quite taken by the Renault 5 at the moment. And I'm also quite taken by the low kind of low slung, the estates and the saloon cars that we're getting. So I'm more keeping it Tesla, I guess. I'm probably more Model 3 than I am Model Y. Just like a low roofline, basically.
Or a Polestar 2 slammed to the deck.
Or a Polestar 2 slammed to the deck. Back me up here in the comments. Polestar 2, nice looking car, great looking car, right? Take 40 or 50 mil out of the ride height. That's what it needs. I don't know why it's so high.
Because of the batteries.
No, because they do a sporty. They did a one-off sporty one with kind of larger wheels on it and body stripes and all the rest of it. Yeah, you could knock 40, 50 mil out of the ride height and it would look great. I insist. Put on some big wheels.
Had a comment here from Casey. Yes, I did see. You probably saw that the Mustang Mach-E that's done 250,000 miles on the original pack. But I mean, it's showing the longevity of these battery packs now. I have comments saying, "Oh, the batteries will be dead in a few years." And it's like they're not. These cars are going, long distance. It's 250,000 miles, and it's not struggled, and it's still on that. And it was that Ioniq 5, wasn't there, on some ludicrous mileage that Hyundai bought the battery pack and the motors off him and refurbished the car just to pull them apart to see how it took their toll on. That was 400,000. Oh,
Shut up and take my money. Yes. It's the electric V50 that we never got. Especially yes, I'm all about that. Yes, that's my jam, that is. And you've missed a comment above it, so. Yes, Commuter Branchline says, thanks for that, Alex. The Renault 5 is like a revisit to my youth. Have you seen there's a new Ali G thing where he's driving around with General Levy and they stop and charge? They've got because he had a yellow Renault 5 GT Turbo in the movie 25 odd years ago. Ali G has now gone electric, and there's actually footage of him driving around in a yellow new Renault 5 with General Levy of Junglist Massive fame. I couldn't sound more tragic and unfashionable if I tried. But the two of them driving around in this car, and they stop and charge halfway through it and stuff. It's just interesting to see that. Yeah, they're getting the link there. So
does it have light brows? Didn't Ali G's original Renault 5 have the diagonal bits across the tops of the headlights?
Yeah, this doesn't have that. Yeah, bad boy bonnets they were called.
That's what they were called.
I was never keen, but yes, very popular.
So yeah, but there's I mean, going to sort of, as you were saying, back to the Grand. I mean, so many of the Chinese manufacturers already jumped the gun on that and done that. I mean, the Leap motor has become cheaper than the Dacia Spring at the moment, hasn't it? I mean, and I believe that's an LFP battery as well. I really like that. I mean, I think you really need to try the Leap Motor T03. It was a really good car. And the really mad thing is about it is even the cheapest EV is more capable than the first EV I had. So that little Leap Motor with its 30-odd kilowatt-hour battery pack can go further and charge faster than the first electric car I had, which was the Renault Zoe, which, you know, but then again, I'm still seeing the original Renault Zoes on the road, some 15-plate ones, so they seem to be surviving.
But the thing is, I think the thing that's interesting to note with the grant is, as I say, this sudden pressure that it's put on everyone to drop prices, either because they're suddenly going to be competing with people who are going to be offering vehicles with this price discount rolled in, or because either they're kind of Chinese EV brands that are looking to compete with the European brands, or they're European brands who are perhaps concerned about the size of the fines that you get with the ZEV mandates. Because obviously, if you don't hit your ZEV mandate targets, if you don't sell enough EVs as a proportion of your sales, you've either got to pair with another brand and buy credits, basically, or you pay large fines on a per vehicle basis. So discounting by the cost of the grant is less financial pain than getting fined, and so it's in that way it's kind of put pressure on the market beyond discounting directly. There's going to be kind of all sorts of indirect discounts that come about as a result of this, which is good, but obviously it's gonna wobble some of the used market a bit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I mean, that's generally been the response from the industry as well, is that there are concerns about what this means for used values. I think that's the thing to be careful of with it.
So commuter branch line Leap Motor is cheaper than taking the bus.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a genuinely good car. I mean, it's even sitting on like decent brand tires. It's on Continental tires and everything. It's not like on cheap tires. So, I think isn't it made in Poland or something? The T03 as well. I think it's not made in China either.
Here's the thing, though. So there's been a lot of talk about China and the Chinese EV, the Chinese grid. I can't get into the data that they use for the grant system. But I did get into I can't remember. So another similar kind of organization had a list, and actually Poland's got a dirtier grid than China. So it may be that producing cars in Poland, especially if you're importing Chinese batteries to fit to it, is going to mean that you don't get the grant. But how much margin can there really be in a car like the Leap Motor? I mean, how much more can you really cut out of something like that?
Well, when you think, a lot of the brands stopped, things like the Volkswagen App, the Skoda Citigo, they all stopped making those cars, and things like Fiesta and stuff, because the manufacturers say there's no margin in them. So where have they find the margin to reduce the price of something like that? And it's not as if it's skimped on like kit as well. It's got lots of the it's almost fully GSR2 spec and stuff, and for that price point, you compare it to some of the other cars. I mean, we've just had the comment from Casey. Technically, the cheapest car. Well, that's not just a cheap. So you can say that they've not just reached price parity; they've reached below the cost of a fueled car. Now, I'm I remember doing stuff with cars. Remember the 69995?
Yeah.
That's your Sandero. Remember, it was the cheapest car when they launched it and stuff, with the black plastic bumpers and the radio preparation kit. So it was one of the few cars that you could get that didn't come with a radio in it, but it came with a kit. So it had the aerial and like 2 speakers, so you could choose your radio.
I think it's interesting seeing how much prices have gone up and how quickly we've got used to vehicles being. Yeah, we're talking about cheap EVs in the low 20s. I mean, it's the Mark V Golf GTI when it launched, I think was about £21,000. I mean, I know that's 2005, something like that. So it's not new, but it's you think back. I mean, that's a lot of car for 20,000. And these days you'd be looking at probably twice that for an equivalent car. And it's quite scary how quickly the prices of cars have gone up to the point where, if as a consumer you're coming in, because I was talking to somebody the other day and saying about, so actually talking about the Grandland and saying, I described it as an affordable EV for what it was. And he said, "Oh, how much is it?" And I said, "Oh, it's 40,000." He said, £40,000 for a Vauxhall. And I was like, well, yeah. And then I just suddenly thought, actually, if you're not embedded in this all the time, as you know, we are. I mean, I know that, for example, the average price of a list car last year, the average list price of a leased car in the UK last year was about £52,000. And that's the average. And if for an EV, it was something like 58. So, I mean, there's a lot of company car volume and things that's pushing that up. But nonetheless, the average price of a car, and you just think that is staggeringly high. You think what you used to be able to get for £58,000 not that long ago. We've got used to high prices very, very quickly. So maybe a little bit of downward pressure is not such a bad thing after all.
Yeah, because actually, you saying that. So back in 2012, I got a Mercedes C-Class new. It was an AMG spec, so the middle spec one. That was £32,000 new in 2012. And now my Ioniq 5 costs more than it's a Hyundai. So you're saying actually, you know, that was a premium brand back then, which was classed as expensive. So I've got another one from
pains me to say it. Cover your ears, little Volkswagen, but I have to say that the Grandland in top spec is cheaper than the Tiguan I drove a year ago, which was a mild hybrid, so an ETSI, so not even like a plug-in hybrid. Lovely car, the Tiguan, but I think I'd rather have the Grandland and have the EV and have a fully loaded one. But it's a very complete, very, very complete car. Tim's going to be laughing when he sees this later. Me ranting on about the Grandland and how good it is.
Yeah. Commute to Branstein, first EV was a 2013 Nissan Leaf Technica, 24 kilowatt. I was lucky to get 80 miles on the charge, 90 to 100 high. Yeah. Prices will go down. And I mean, I think maybe the grant is to push manufacturers. I think, yes, there've been technology increases like GSR2, which adds expense, but you know, a lot of it is software. So software kind of isn't really, once you've developed it, it's not really a physical cost. So I think maybe over the years, some of the manufacturers have started to get a bit cheeky with the pricing, because we do have seen massive rises in the cost of cars. You know, so maybe it does need a bit of a refocus. The problem is it's going to mess about with the used market, because obviously those prices have got to normalize. So,
yeah, you need this bit of disruption, don't you? So
yeah, and I think as much as some people criticize them, the Chinese brands are bringing that disruption to the market. You know, it's not cheap stuff. It's not cheap. Doesn't necessarily equate to poor quality anymore. You know, I've driven things like the Amoda stuff. It's all really good. You know, so you know, the Jaiku, a few little softer bugs, but they've resolved those. It's kind of, they're moving very quickly. You know, look at how far MG has come from, like, you know, every iteration gets better. And you look at the IM products, and they're gunning for Model 3 and some of the premium stuff with that. I mean, the back does look a bit Aston Martin-y, but
no comment. But yes, no, it definitely does.
Yeah. So KC says the same factory as the previous Gen
I think,
500.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's in it, and there's a high weighting for batteries as well. I mean, that's important. I think we do need the battery supply chain in Europe to really unlock, economies of scale and so on over here, and avoid having millions and millions of pounds worth of of batteries sat on boats for weeks coming over from China. We do need that supply chain here, and
We
it
almost
offers
had-
a robustness as well, doesn't it, market
We
wise?
almost had it, didn't we, with Britvolt, but it fell through. KC had a loaner i10 N line. It was a 1 litre turbo petrol, 90. See, I mean, cars aren't cheap. That's an i10, and it's nearly £20,000. I'm trying to think what was the list price of your Polo when it was new, because that wasn't a cheap car at the time.
£12,500 or somewhere thereabouts. So yeah, and that was a top spec car. Although it didn't really get very much. It wasn't a lot of kind of technology in it for that money.
I know you've even got keep fit windows in it.
Yeah.
Was there a version with electric windows?
You could get it as a dealer add-on, but I don't think I'd want to be getting an aftermarket. It's the kind of annoying thing that if it went wrong, you'd end up with your windows open in the rain. It just doesn't interest me.
I don't know. I'd be more afraid of that.
I had my old Passat, my 2002 Passat. The electric window mechanism tied itself in knots, and I had to spend a couple of weeks. Every time I drove it, I had to kind of get out the car and just push the window back up into the frame. It slipped about 4 or 5 mil over the course of a journey, which was enough to start letting the wind whistle after a while. But yeah, very annoying. Whereas the mechanism in this is all made of metal and it hasn't fallen apart on me yet, touch wood.
I'm very wary of an aftermarket electric window kit. The reason I'd be wary of it is not so much it not going up, is it going up too much and then my window becoming these little tiny pieces of glass. I mean, surely it's a big lump stuck on where the handle would be.
You have a cap that covers the old mechanism, and I don't know how you go about calibrating. I've never had one, but yeah, it just you have a kit where you presumably then have to tell it how far to wind it up and wind it down. I'm not sure.
Yes, because I have had an email recently as well. Speaking of, because you've got central lock-in, which I'm guessing is aftermarket on the Polo.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a optional supported recall on a lot of Ioniq 5s over the keys, where they give you some new keys and a new software program for it, because there have been some technical issues with people being able to, I believe, capture the Ioniq 5 key system and repeat it and unlock them and drive them off. But apparently it's a £49 optional upgrade,
right?
Which is a curious thing, the optional on it.
Well, yeah, but, I think I'd be wanting to jump on that.
Yeah, well, I've just one of the things on my to-do list for Monday is to phone the leasing company and see if they want to, as it's a fully maintained one, they want to support the optional upgrade, since at the end of the day, it's their car, not mine. So,
yeah.
But yeah, just it's got flagged to me that it's a £49 supported, subsidised offer.
Yeah.
It's like, and you get 2 new keys. Although I'm not sure I want the 2 new keys if they're those new. That's the one thing I will criticize.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will criticize them. Those new keys, which are so big, yet they don't have enough space for the emergency key to hide in them.
It's not a great bit of design. It's quite a nice bit of design aesthetically, but yeah, once you actually, from a usability point of view, it's not great. It's really not great. The new Hyundai keys are shaped like the Hyundai logo, for those who haven't seen one. And the old keys used to have a little slot for you to put the metal key in, but the new ones don't. And it just for a company that's getting so much right, it seems kind of strange oversight. But yeah,
it almost feels to me like the design brief was make the key look like our logo. That was it. There wasn't a design brief to say also fit the emergency key in it.
Yes, and then there was a last minute panic, and they thought, great, we're going to have to put the little key, we'll have a little dangly key on all of the keychains.
Which It's so much so that I found on, might have been Thingiverse or one of the 3D printer things, that you can make a cover for that little key that's got a Hyundai logo on it. Someone's done a 3D printable one.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Doesn't surprise me at all.
The thing I've realized, it can be quite wasteful for 3D printer because it's multicolored. You can do it on some, but every little tiny bit of the Hyundai logo, it has to go and clean the nozzle. So you have all these little piles of green or black or white or whatever colors you've picked for the logo and the thing in the waste thing. And it also slows the printing down.
Yeah.
I need to find out a 3D printer that can do multicolors in a more efficient way. I'm guessing they would have to be multi-nozzle, but because most of them have got one nozzle and they just load the filament in.
I can only imagine the sort of crap that I'd have a house full of if I had a 3D printer. It's a temptation that I need to not fall victim to, I think.
This is why I haven't got one. Someone in work keeps offering me their old one, and I'm like, no, do not take it. You're just going to print far too much stuff out that you don't need. That's all you're going to do is print stuff.
Imagine the next level Hot Wheels customization that I could do with a 3D printer in the house. You know it.
You'll be doing wheels, everything.
Yeah.
You'll have to have quite a high resolution one for those size wheels, though.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't bother with the wheels, but like spoilers and seats and all sorts of other bits and pieces. I'd be a dangerous man with a 3D printer.
You need one that does metal, then.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You can get
something. Volkswagen are talking about printing spare parts, like plastic parts. So instead of having a warehouse full of parts, you can 3D print the bits as and when customers want them. It makes a huge amount of sense, doesn't it? But I assume you'd want a smoother finish than all the 3D printing I've seen. You always get those kind of layers of, There
are ways of doing it. Resin can do that. Computer branch line, lots of folks seek to buy ICE.
So yeah, lots of folks seek to buy ICE cars between £5,000 to £10,000 or less. My Tesla Model Y long range all-wheel drive cost 55k, which was more than my house when I bought it. And I think that's going to be the big thing, is you can buy cheap EVs at the moment. Yeah, you can get Leafs for a couple of grand now, but you're still looking at over 10,000 for a good single, a palatable for most people single car, single family car type of vehicle. They get there. I think once you start getting vehicles into those 4-digit price ranges, your Konas, your Neros, your Model 3s, cars like that, that's going to be a real game changer, because more and more people are just going to kind of go, actually. And once you start talking about the figures on it and so on, it's going to be, I think, the more we can see, the more we'll see people switch, I think.
So actually, I've looked at the time. It's actually coming up to that point, 57 minutes. So has anyone else got any other questions before we wrap it up?
The basic thrust of the grant side of things is that at the moment nobody knows what's going to get what grant-wise, and there's no real way of working it out other than if you see a manufacturer looking at matching the grant funding without saying that they're doing it because they think they're going to get the grant, you could probably assume that they're not. They're built somewhere where, like China, where the grid is not green enough. My sense of it is it's way too complicated, and I think that it's going to exert some pressure on new car prices, which is probably a good thing. But in the short term, that's then going to ripple into the used car market, which is going to cause some issues there. But we'll see.
Yeah. The only thing where I think it's going to help is if it's a new launched brand in the market, because they'll just come in lower and they won't hurt residual values because there isn't anything to compare it to.
True. Yeah.
So right. So as we come to a close, so what are you up to this week then, Alex?
Oh, blimey. I'm trying to remember. I'm probably finishing off the bit that you alluded to earlier with a bit of a little kind of wheel refurbishing session going on. I've got some center caps that are in need of a bit of TLC. So the rest of it, unfortunately, is as usual secret squirrel stuff, and a little bit of kind of summer holidays, parenting chaos thrown into the mix as well. So yeah, a bit of everything. How about you?
So I've got I'm back out of my own cars again. I'm testing the Skywell BE11, which weirdly is now, I've seen the pricing, has had a significant price drop from when I went to the launch, which will that change, you know, how people see their car? It's interesting because now the big battery one starts at 30,000, whereas it was dangerously close to the 40,000 mark when it was launched. So, and it is a big car. So I believe KC's tested it already, and it's a sizable car, and it seems to be, you know, at that value price point. It might.
I think it's found its level at that.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what it should have launched at.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it's like, I know I've seen some iffy reviews on it, but I think that's largely because of the price point where it came in. I think, you know, once you sort of adjust the price side of things, suddenly it doesn't look so expensive. It's a lot of car for the money, a lot of metal.
I think it was launched competing with stuff that it maybe shouldn't have been competing with. So it'll be interesting to see when I test it, you know, when you take that price into mind. And actually, you know, on a launch, you don't really get to feel the car properly. You know, you drive it for what, an hour, maybe 2. So it'd be good to get behind the wheel and see what it's really capable of. The interesting thing is, because it's pre-GSR2, because it was type approved in Europe, there's not necessarily going to be those features that people get so annoyed about.
Yeah, true.
So that's all from us, and we'll see you next week, where next week we've got another guest, and we're talking about EV trolls and how you'd troll an EV troll. So that'll be an interesting one. So
pleasure as always, and thanks for tuning in on a Sunday night, guys. We really do appreciate it. And we'll catch up with you next week. Cheers, guys.